Hey, I'm Liv Phyland. This is the Asuria Podcast channel. In this series, What I Wish I Knew, we're going to help you turn your business growing pains into gains. In today's episode, we are going to be talking about money. Now, it is something that a lot of people avoid, but it is so important because we so often undercharge and undervalue. Now, to give us some pricing tips, we are joined by Jason and Shasta. I am joined by Shasta from Montu Restorations and Jason from Brand Quest. And we are going to be talking about pricing. Mm-hmm. Everyone loves to talk about money. Is there still a taboo around talking about money and money in business, or do you feel like that's shifting?
For me, it's shifted. I mean, I've never really kind of had a lot of discussion around money and what to charge in my life. I used to be an employee where sometimes I could negotiate a salary, or if it was under an enterprise agreement, that's what I'd be getting paid. So it's a new experience for me to have to really think about money and charging for my time and what my time is worth.
Yeah. Is it an uncomfortable one for you?
Absolutely. I would always err on the side of caution in my mind in terms of what to price things at, I think. But even more than that, I think because I love what I do, I'm so passionate about restoring furniture. It feels like a joy. I would do it for free.
You got to be careful with that one.
How do I make sure that I value my time and that my clients value my time as well? So yeah, it's been a bit of an interesting journey with the pricing.
Lots to dive into there, but first, Jason, what's your take on the whole talking about money? Are we getting better at it? Are we not? And how comfortable are you in that space?
I mean, I think pricing and talking about money is always hard because you can you can be the best salesperson in the world, and then you get to the pricing conversation and they go, what? And so it's about setting expectations, and it's about setting expectations on what you're going to deliver. And then it's about trying to then get the person that you're selling to, whatever you're selling to kind of agree to that. So it's a negotiation, and it doesn't only stop, I find, we've finally agreed on a number. Then when it comes to collecting the money, that becomes a huge issue. And how you collect the money, and you've done the work, and then you find these situations where you're not getting paid, and how do you treat that, and how respectful can you be, and how does that work? These are all part of that conversation. So it's not just how much did I sell the product for. It's about the whole process, whether it's a service or a product.
I'd love to know both of your perspectives on the psychology of pricing. Sometimes we want to charge less so that we can undercut the market and, be the cheapest available. But other times pricing high sets your value and people are like, oh, well, I better go with this one because they obviously do a better job. Or, what do you think is that happy medium? And what's your take on it, Jason?
I think I'm going to now talk from a branding point of view. Brand is all about price. So the stronger your brand, the more you can tend to command a higher price. But it's also about confidence. So when you're putting yourself out there in a service, it's about, well, what is that service really worth? And is that service a cost plus mentality, i.e. it costs me this much, or is it the value I deliver? And is it the same thing for a product? How do you think about that from that perspective? I think it's always one of those things where you've got to try it, you got to put it out there, you got to be prepared to see how that works, and then build it up over time. And it really depends on what your offering is.
Which can be uncomfortable because I also have found over time putting something out there and then going, well, now I need to stick to that pricing because I can't be confusing, and then I can't drop it down, and then someone says, well, I paid so much more for it. And so it's hard to kind of work out in the early days especially, what is the value of the work that I'm doing, but also what's the value of me, I suppose. Shasta, how have you found that experience?
Yeah, I've been really fortunate that from the start for me, I've had a mentor, a restoration mentor. He has over 40 years experience in the industry. And one of the big things that I've really leaned on him for has been advice around pricing. He's been a restorer for many years. And so his insights and his experiences have been extremely valuable. And before I quote something, I'll discuss it with him. And every time he's like, "Nope, you're underselling yourself. You're negotiating yourself down. Stop it. Think about this and think about the value of your time and your experience and what this is. And if you start at that down point, it's very hard to go up from there. So getting it right initially is actually really valuable. And I think that's where mentors come in. And Ray, my Asuria mentor, has also been really helpful in that regard. You can't talk to too many people either in your area or with business experience about it before making a decision.
But you can't necessarily ask your client, how much do you think I should charge for this?
Yeah.
That makes it a little bit uncomfortable.
Absolutely. And my restoration mentor, he tells me that, a number of years ago, when he was kind of first coming up in the industry, he realised he was undercharging. And he made the difficult decision to increase his fees. And he expected there would be a reduction in his work. It actually went up 30% because people then, because of that increased pricing, they saw the value in it, and they saw it as an investment and considered him an expert and were willing to go with that. So if he hadn't taken that step, he would have spent many more years at a lower rate.
Obviously, you've had this amazing guidance from your restorer as well as your Asuria business mentor. How do you feel like your personal mindset towards pricing and money has shifted over the last, how many years have you been doing?
Only a year.
Okay. How has it evolved in the last 12 months?
Hugely. I mean, I think my mentality in general around money or charging for my time has always been quite skewed, because when I first started in the legal sector, I worked at a community legal centre where we didn't charge and we were there to help. And so it's actually been interesting that mentality has carried over. And this is a completely different thing. I'm not providing a community service restoring furniture, but still at the start I really struggled to even contemplate charging anything, partly because of that service mentality, partly also because I loved it and, how could I possibly be charging for it? But, we've got to eat.
You've got to eat, absolutely.
And so a huge shift for me from the start, which has been through my mentors, but also, and you spoke about it before, Jason, having that confidence in yourself and really starting to recognise that what I'm doing is of a very high standard and that should be reflected in my pricing.
Yeah, absolutely. Jason, you started your business almost 20 years ago.
Yeah.
How has it evolved for you? The mindset, your pricing, the knowledge around how to price?
Yeah, it's interesting. Two things. Firstly, pricing, what we offered back then and what we offer now, the price has gone up. Like there's no two ways about it. But I think
hope so.
The cost of doing things has gone up as well. But I think the way I look at it is I always find that when you have a service, try and price it like a product. And when you have a product, try and price it like a service. So we had a service. We were developing, in this case, marketing strategies. So what we wanted to do is price it like a product. So this is how much it's going to cost. This is how long it's going to take. Think about it from a product point of view. And then if you have a product, if you're making skincare or you're making something, try and work out what the services that you can add on to that product to think about that. What's the customer service like? What's the return policy? All of those sort of things which are part of the service and the experience. And I think what's happened over that time is that I think you get an idea of, you said, I think one of the questions you asked is when you can't ask your customer, well, actually you can kind of, depending on what you're playing with, you can ask your customer. You can kind of get a reference to what else they're doing. You can get an idea of what that is so that, that you make sure that you price within a ballpark that is like that. Because it's a bit of a negotiation.
Yeah.
You're just giving, if you're in a service, you're just giving up time. And if you're in a product company, you're giving up a product. You have to just kind of work that. But the most important lesson I learned was we do a lot of not-for-profit work. We've worked on a lot of not-for-profit brands. And originally we actually gave it away for free. And it just wasn't valued. And so in that case, what we do now is you go, okay, I'm not going to give you a price. You tell me what's going to be enough money that is actually meaningful to your business, whatever that value is, that you can tell, and that's what the price we're going to, you'll set the price for that, knowing that this is what you're going to get for it. So that's, you can play around a little bit with that. And I think it's about listening to what they are and what they need.
Yeah. Something I actually wanted to touch on, and something you said, Shasta, kind of sparked it for me, is I do a lot of coaching, and something that comes up is that, oh, but I'm doing good, so I better not charge for it. Oh, I really love what I'm doing, I better not charge for it. And I mean, yes, I've heard this from coaching clients, but it is something that I have felt deeply myself with different projects I've worked on over the years. And something that I tell them, which I need to obviously tell myself as well, is we need to be paying for good more than we're hemorrhaging money for people that are doing bad in the world, and that's a very simple way to put it. But it's like, imagine if we could get paid to be doing the things that light us up or that help others, then we don't have to let it fall apart in 2 years' time. We can keep offering and giving back more and more. But so many people think that always has to be, I work for free. And what happens is that then they're trying to support themselves by working 3 other jobs, and the time and energy and resources that you could be channeling into your actual business, and hence giving back more, is lost. So that mentality of like, if we're doing good or if we're doing something that we enjoy, we shouldn't be charging for it, I believe needs a lot of work still. Yeah. Is that something you can probably testify to?
Yeah, it made me think about the fact that really it's an investment in yourself to charge for the good you do, but it's also about sustainability, If you're not charging for your work, if you can't support yourself financially, if you are working all these other jobs, it's not a sustainable thing. It'll lead to burnout, or you won't have the energy that it needs to focus on it. And so it's actually important for sustainability to make sure you're pricing things right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Have you felt like in the last 12 months, obviously it is still a new business, but have you felt like you have undercharged at times?
Yeah, a bit. So I remember there was a client I was quoting for, and I wrote up the quote and I thought, no, that's too low. So I thought about the time I'd be spending on the work and upped the price. And then my restoration mentor was overseas at the time, so I couldn't seek his advice. So I sent
you went rogue?
I went rogue, sent the quote. I was happy with it. I was like, I'm very proud of myself, charging more than I knew what I was originally going to charge was too low. And then when he got back, I told him, and he said, oh, that's still too low.
Yeah.
So there's probably going to be a bit of that. And it's a bit of a process, I think, getting things right. And you're not going to get it right necessarily the first time. And the learnings from it, I think, are as valuable as maybe the money you lost, or more so, because, it really teaches you a lot about it. So... yeah, so there has been a lot I've I guess, learned in the last 12 months from it, particularly when I've priced things too low. But also with the type of work I do, I can quote something, but until you get in there, until you start taking the piece apart, or until you start working on it, you may not know what it's going to need. So it's been really important for me to be able to communicate very clearly that this is a quote, and that it is open to change. And then also communicating during the process has been really important. If things change, I communicate that. And something very valuable that my restoration mentor has taught me is taking photos during the process and sending them to the client during the process, because they won't necessarily know what is involved in restoring a piece of furniture, but I can show all the steps. And so when they get the bill at the end, they're like, well, that seems quite high. When they've had photos during the process and they've seen what's gone into it, it's a lot more reasonable for them.
Yeah, you've taken them along for the journey, and they're aware of the whole process.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess the other thing as well is when whether it's a service or something that has a lot of steps in it, something my restoration mentor has taught me is writing down each element of what the restoration will involve and the prices of those elements.
Yeah.
Because the client may say, well, I can't afford this. And so instead of me negotiating myself down on the whole price, I can go back and say, that's absolutely fine, but which elements would you like to take out? So it's really still valuing my time, but
you're
giving
almost
options.
putting them in the position or giving them the power of going, okay, well, how would you work with this?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's allowing them to make the choices themselves.
Yeah.
So they're still feeling empowered. They're deciding what they want done and
Yeah.
what they're willing to pay. But it's not negotiating myself down on the whole price.
That is good. My question for you, Jason,
Yeah.
is when it is okay to discount or undercharge, because there are some times that it will be great for marketing or opportunities. So, yeah, when to know when we should be discounting.
Yeah, absolutely. I just the one comment I have for that, what we just heard just then was, I call that evidence of industry. Always got to show evidence of industry. I think it's a really good little way of always checking that you're showing what you're doing. But when is it okay to discount? I would say that there's. It's built into the Australian psyche. I mean, as much as I would try and fight it as a brand person, I would say you'd never discount. Like, if you look at the best brands in the world, like if you look at Apple, have they ever do they discount? Have you ever got
they just keep going
up and up and up? Have you tried to get a discount? No, and you compare it to a PC, and it's the cheapest you can get. So I would say that if you really invest into the brand, then you shouldn't have to do it. Like, Hermes would not discount. Like, why would you in fact, they just put the prices up again. But there isn't a psyche, especially in Australia, where, it might be for our supermarket psyche, it might be for our department stores, or that there is a discount there. So I think people look for those discounts now, Black Friday, all of those things. There's another thing, and that clearly drives volume. And you have this dichotomy with price. Price is to me marketing all in one word, because it's both demand and supply. So you've got this thing where people, it drives volume. It drives a lot of volume, and so you can't go away from that. You can't just not discount because people if they're expecting that. But then you have to think about what you're discounting from, and so then you can play that in. It's also there is a pricing methodology which says, hey, I'm just going to charge lower than everybody else and break, and beat the market. Like, it's kind of like the Amazon approach to everything, or and that price is always, or maybe the Audi approach, where the price is always low, right? Like, it's always going to be at that. Like, it doesn't go up and down. We're always going to do that. In fact, I'm working with a company in the furnishing industry, and they've delivered unbelievable service at this price that nobody else can compete against, and they get huge volumes. And so you always are playing off this volume versus price, and you have to work that out. Is it better to sell a lot at a slightly lower price, or is it better to sell less but make more money? And you have to play that. Like, one final point was, I think when I was at business school, there was a person there that said, I just wanted to work 4 days a year, or 10 days a year. That's right. The professor at university, when we were in the States, all these professors work, and they wanted to work 10 days in the commercial world. And so they had to work out what price would they charge just to work 10 days.
Now that is ambitious.
And they worked out the number, and they kept on putting up their price until they get to those numbers. And that's the play that you've got to do. But that's part of business, right? Business is working these numbers up. You don't have the answer. That's what. And that's can kind of be the fun part of it. You can learn over time and get to the number that's right for you.
When we bring that down to a smaller scale, a startup, a small business, someone working by themselves, for themselves, it really comes back to self-worth, knowing your worth. So can we kind of talk on that of I feel like you just touched on it in a way of these people putting these huge price tags on their time, and then just sticking by that. Do you think that's worth, or do you think that's because they're in a very well set up situation that they can just go, I don't care if you don't want my work?
I think by the time you're a professor at a top business school, you're at the top of your profession, and then you can demand that. I think when you're starting up, I think you're building experience, and so you're kind of getting paid to build experience. That's the kind of the way to look at this. And so there's a thing here where I would always say, if you wanted to discount to start off with, you wouldn't say discount. You'd say an introductory price, or you would say, "Hey, this is this is a special. We've got extra time at the moment." Or you kind of work out the way that makes it not a permanent pricing, but just to build up there. But I think you have to take a viewpoint that pricing is there to help you build the experience so that eventually you become top of your game in anything that you do, and that's kind of where you're playing around in there. So my viewpoint on it is, you want to price so that you get work, right? If you don't have any work, you're not going to learn. And so if it's furniture restoration, you need to have furniture to restore. If you don't have that furniture, you're not going to learn, and so there is a bit of that. It's grey. The world is grey. It's not a perfect number. There's always a range. It's a negotiation. It's absolutely a negotiation when you're starting off, but there's probably going to be a tendency that you're going to undercharge rather than overcharge. That's probably built into most people. It depends on confidence.
It's a constant reassessment, or I feel like I look back at my career and the things that I did for free or volunteered my time for, that I had family and friends being like, "You're crazy, like you're not even getting paid for this," or whatever it was. That's actually what opened the door to the biggest moments in my career, for example, or, some things, really great marketing opportunities or association or branded association. And so it is just constantly reassessing, like, should I stick in my worth here and have boundaries and charge, what I am worth? Or do I be more flexible and fluid, and do I sort of put myself out there or work for free, and that's going to lead to other things? So I personally have found that a constant, it's always shifting. Shasta, what about you?
Yeah, I suppose back in the day, so during my legal career, there was a kind of a time when I was providing services, helping employees who were having issues at work, who didn't have access to community legal centres, didn't have access or couldn't afford lawyers, weren't members of unions. And so I developed a service to be able to help people with issues with work. And because I'd come from that community legal centre background then, I really struggled with charging people. But I noticed that when I didn't value my time then, or I did stuff for free, they wouldn't communicate to me when situations had changed. So I would do all this work for them, and then I'd send it to them and they'd say, "Oh no, things have changed, that's not relevant anymore." But because they weren't paying for that work, they didn't have the impetus to tell me that the situation had changed. So then that even more undervalued my time. I was spending all this time doing stuff that wasn't even relevant anymore. And so that was a huge lesson back then about valuing me and my time, so that when I, many years later, starting a furniture restoration business, I really understood the need to value my time for the start. So in the furniture restoration space, I've been quite firm with charging for my time. And, even when I suppose, when I've wanted to, friends have kind of mentioned a piece of furniture that they want to restore, or they have been meaning to restore, or they need to get restored. There's been a part of me that just wants to do it for free because they're a friend and I love doing it, and, I really care about them and want to do it. But what stopped me is that need to value myself and my time, and also so I don't get resentful. Because when you are doing things for free, or you're spending your time kind of killing yourself for people, and then they don't value your time, it will lead to resentment, or it may lead to a reduction in your standard of work. And so it's actually a really important element of your business and the sustainability of your business and the quality of your work that you charge.
And personal burnout, which is something that you absolutely got hit with so hard, which made you change careers entirely. So sort of doing everything in your power to avoid that, I can imagine.
I was just going to say that there's two things. Something that you said, just that if you can value it, like if you said the market, like it was free market, like you were doing it for free, but you actually got marketing out of it, then that's value.
Yeah, exactly.
And then on the second thing, if a friend came to you, the way I would look at it is, Well, maybe you turn that into a podcast, or you turn it into a demonstration where you actually
content creation,
where they actually learn from you. And so the trick there is you're valuing your time, but if you can set up a YouTube channel and you show people how to do it themselves, then they're only paying for it like a lot less of your time, or they're paying
you're
for a
getting
program.
something in return as well.
And so you're building something out. So it's a way of valuing your time for the amount of effort that you put into something. So if they don't have the money, fine, do it yourself. Here's a do-it-yourself program. You can do that. And when it gets tricky, you're going to come to us, to come to me, and I'll charge you a lot of money just to help you fix that. But there's a ways to look at it. It's really a very complex area that allows you to really think about how business works, and I think it's a huge opportunity.
So much to think about, guys, and such an important topic, because I think being often starting a small business is solo, and knowing what to charge, how to charge is really important. You know, Shasta, you've mentioned having mentors, but thank you so much for both sharing your experiences and your wealth of knowledge. Very, very helpful.
Thank you.
Now, if you guys want to find out more about Asuria and the Workforce Australia Self-Employment Assistance Program, check the show notes or head to Asuria, asuria.com.au/podcast.
This podcast was recorded on Gadigal land. We acknowledge the First Peoples of Australia and pay respect to elders past and present. We honour their ongoing connection to land, waters, culture and community, and extend that respect to any First Nations peoples listening today.